Oh, hello. I didn't see you there. Tell me, my friend, why have you come here? What's that? You want to see how many errors are in episode 3 of High Guardian Spice? That's a weird request. What the fuck is wrong with you? Who breaks into someone's house and then demands that they tell them about errors in a cartoon nobody even watches? What the fuck, I got nothing better to do. But I warn you, cataloging the errors in this show is a pathway to madness. Which is why I've enlisted the help of my faithful Discord members. Big thanks to the users listed here for helping me out on this project. Those brave soldiers which have endured the madness of watching High Guardian Spice more than once. And I'll make a point of saying this every video so the message gets through. Animation errors are not the main issue with High Guardian Spice. There are a ton of other problems. Sage being the main one.
No, I'm playing. But really though.
Once again, we have an error within the first couple of seconds of the episode. If you zoom in, you can clearly see that Parsley is behind Rosemary, but when they go into a close-up, she's suddenly in front of Rosemary. And time seems to teleport really close to them as well. Also, the buttons strike again as Parsley is missing hers. The engravings on Rosemary's sword change slightly in between shots. We see Sage got her nail polish back, but it disappears as she's casting the spell. I'm telling you, that stuff's gotta be magical. Also, we got a classic case of button-appearitis.
I have an illness!
Time's bow magically extends in between shots. Also, I'd like to pause for this brief moment to talk about how Time's bow makes absolutely no sense without magic. The bow doesn't fold like a normal folding bow, rather parts of it seem to shoot out of the handle. So that has me wondering where the hell the string comes from. It can't come out of the middle because Time's hand would be blocking it. And she's not restringing it, obviously, so where the fuck... It's magic. It's gotta be magic. Also, there's an error in the intro I missed. Yeah, that's right, the fucking intro to the show has an error in it. And it's a really fitting error. Parsley's buttons are missing. We all know that in this opening scene, Rosemary throws her sword and breaks it on a rock. However, the rock is not there. Unless that weird splotch there is supposed to be the rock, in which case it teleports. Also, is it just me, or does the background here not match the background from the other shot? Sage's book disappears into the ether when she puts it down. Also, going back to that shot of the school, there's no broom next to Sage, and yet the broom appears magically later. I'm telling you, man, that inconsistency enchantment is dark magic.
She's not a Christian! He's tampering in dark-sided stuff!
The fountain in this scene shouldn't be behind the girls as it's way over there. On top of that, it's supposed to have little statues on it, but those aren't present in this shot. Unless the water is covering them up, but in that case they failed to show the water in the other shots of the fountain. Sage's hands clip through her body. They also seem to clip a little bit with that bush in the background. Ghost Sage. Sage's broom is missing here, and no, I don't accept the idea that it was covered up because we see it clearly covering most of the tree. Also, Rosemary's sandwich clearly only has 2 indents on it, but then it magically morphs into 3. And then it goes back to having 2 again. Ignoring the fact that the tree seemingly doubles in width, Time is clearly not behind it, although in the next shot she's right there. And we clearly see her leaning right next to the edge of the tree, so she wasn't hiding behind it. At least someone figured out the teleportation spell. Oh god, the button-appearitis is spreading! At this rate, we're looking at a pandemic. Well, at least Parsley and Sage don't have theirs. Fuck. Okay, it's at this point where I have to put my foot down and say no more button errors. Listen, they're funny when they happen, but if I go over every single button error, we're gonna be here for years and only talking about buttons. It's a consistent problem throughout the entire series, and this episode just has a ton of them. I know this series is called Every Animation Error in High Guardian Spice, and I want to be thorough, but I don't want to talk about buttons for 40 years. I'll just make sure to mention the amount of button errors at the end of every video.
Because let me tell you, it's a long list.
The number of grogs next to the fountain changes in between shots, with some of them mysteriously vanishing. Lavender's hand phases straight through this sword. I guess ghost powers run through the family? The anvil Parsley is hammering on is clearly pointing towards the furnace, yet in the next shot it suddenly switches direction. Mossflox is missing his tail. Oh shit, Mossflox has a hammer in his arm. Quickly, someone call the school nurse. Wait, what do you mean this school doesn't have a nurse? Oh, budget cuts, right. Remember in the last episode when I said you needed to pay special attention to tables? This scene shows why. During the overhead shot, we can see everything that's on this table, but as it cuts, we can see it changes. And when it zooms in, the stuff on the table changes again. That big-ass bottle definitely wasn't there before. This is another type of continuity error that's pretty prevalent throughout the series, and it was happening a lot in the last episode too. I'm by no means an animation expert, but if I had to guess as to why this was happening, it would probably be poor communication between the people making the backgrounds. You'll notice that every time there's a change in perspective, the stuff on the table will alter as well. But maybe I'm wrong on that, and if I am, feel free to enlighten me in the comments section. Clip. Objects on the shelf suddenly change as we switch perspective. Also, this frame right here should become a meme. Like, look at Neppy's face. That's me watching this. This frame on the wall showing this man and a cat is for some reason duplicated and placed on the opposite side. My headcanon explanation to this is that the Triad got tired of all their wall hangings mysteriously disappearing due to continuity errors. Because of that, they started duplicating random paintings just so they had a backup ready. Clip. The tiny hammer Parsley has now is completely different from the one Moss Phlox gave her. What the actual hell was this animation? That wasn't a layering error, that was a layering tragedy. Looks like Sage is reading the big book of nothing. Would it have killed them to draw some scribbles? Also, while we're focusing on this book, it disappears off the desk. There are many scenes which show expressly that Parsley has no pockets on her jacket, yet in this scene, for some reason, she does have one. This enchanted clothing really is something else. Hell, the pocket even disappears mid-scene. Throughout multiple scenes, the lids on top of these canisters have been flip-flopping. And a bunch of stuff on the tables is either missing or teleporting. Is that gear up there moving backwards? The chair Rosemary is sitting on is clearly not next to that table, yet when we zoom in, it suddenly is. The sizes of the chairs also change very dramatically in between shots. One of Rosemary's socks disappears. Okay, I promise no more button errors, but this scene with Caraway talking to Rosemary has so goddamn many, it is insane. I'll let you guys go spot them for yourselves, but there are so many button errors in this scene and it's really distracting. Amaryllis skips some frames, causing her arms to teleport. No, I did not edit that, that somehow made it into the show. During this scene, multiple arrows stick into Neppy Cat's back, and yet when he falls, they mysteriously vanish into the ether. Another win for the inconsistency enchantment. This fountain just won't stop changing, will it? I feel really bad that the statues got evicted. It's very faint, but if you pay close attention to the top of the books, you can see for a brief moment, a tiny little plus sign appears. Not sure who left that marker in there, but we got you. Parsley is speed. Never gets old. Parsley gains another pocket so she can hold this Trabber. Where are these goddamn pockets coming from? Also, the hammer literally morphs mid-scene with something poking out of the top. There are clearly no nails in front of Parsley, but then some magically appear so she can escape. We see the hole that Parsley comes out from, but when she approaches the teacher, she's suddenly to the side of the hole. And it's not a different one because it's right next to the same furnace and the same wall hangings are above it. I think they might have forgotten they put the hole in the background of this shot. Parts of Neppy's Terrasphere are changing in between frames, with the rings around the end flip-flopping. Okay, Time has 3 arrows in her hand, but then suddenly there are only 2 arrows. And then she proceeds to only fire 2 arrows, but then suddenly there's 3 again. What manner of arrow sorcery are we witnessing here? It's melting my brain. Here we can witness Neppy dying of whiplash as his neck snaps to a completely different direction at Mach 5. Oh, what a catastrophe. I'm sorry. And just like that, we're done with episode 3. Okay, I can't take it anymore. I have to talk about the buttons again. I mean, I literally can't stop. It keeps coming up. So as I said before, past like scene 3, I stopped talking about the button errors. There are about, give or take, 23-ish scenes in this episode. Do you want to know how many of those scenes have an error involving buttons? 20. 20 out of 23 scenes have errors involving buttons with them. And some of them don't have like 1 or 2, they have upwards of 5 each. It is absolutely fucking ridiculous the amount of times buttons teleport, disappear, or change entirely. Button errors alone make up almost half of the error count in this episode. I'm not joking, I'm dead fucking serious.
For real, I'm actually being dead serious. Dead fucking serious.
It's very apparent that these animators cannot handle small details on clothing. It's like their kryptonite. Makes me wonder if their budget was so low they can't hire anyone who gives a shit why they added all these tiny details onto the clothing in the first place. You're just setting yourself up for failure. Anyway, is there something I'm forgetting? Oh right, the error count, yes. Oh, it's just a tiny, measly, insignificant 131. 131 in this episode alone. This episode has about the same amount of errors as the last 2 episodes combined. And so many of them are buttons. It's ridiculous. And I have a feeling it's just gonna get worse the further we go. If you're planning on sticking with me throughout this series, you better hold on to your buttons, because there's not gonna be a whole lot left. Well, anyway, this has been Dave, and I am leaving.
The entire house is dark-sided.
She said her whole house is...
She is dark-sided too!